weird, ambivalent feeling is because religion has taught us that God is mad at us sometimes, wants us to suffer, punishes us, basically is mentally ill. The God of the Bible is mentally ill, unstable, just like, I'm upset, drown them all. Just do it. Just do it. Right? What kind of God says, okay, you can have anything you want except those apples? What kind of fucked up parent does that? Can you imagine? Like, that's a parent that hates you, basically. That'd be like if your mother said, you're 6 years old and your mother goes, I'm going to the store and I've made these fresh baked cookies, piping hot, delicious, with an ice cold glass of milk right next to it. You can have anything in the house, all the kale you want, but don't eat those cookies. Right? And then you eat a bite of the cookie, and your mother comes back and says, get out of this house forever, and your life will be one of suffering by the sweat of your brow, and your children will be born in pain. That's a mentally ill. CPS would come. The God of Child Protective Services. That's why we don't trust God, because we've been taught this insane God that doesn't exist. Right? So the first thing you have to do is fire that God. Right? We fired you, we're interviewing now. We're in the interviewing process of the better God, the God of my being. All right. I might get on too many rolls today. I'm wearing wizard wear. As you can see, I have a whole wardrobe of this now. This is somewhat between Jedi Master and Professor Dumbledore. But this is all I'm interested in now. I'm not interested in human clothes anymore. I've left that world entirely behind me. I have this in every color. I have this in black and blue and white and red. This is all you will see me in from now on. So, that's more on that later. So let's back to the book. We'll try and get this out. The magic valve. One of the best ways I've heard to describe feel-good energy is the analogy of a valve or nozzle, the kind you find on a fire hose. We're the valve, and the fire hose is what carries the energy flow from our source, that greater part of us that we're forever connected to. That stream of non-physical energy is what we really are. An unfathomable force of joy, abundance, and security. Most of the time, we keep ourselves cut off from that full stream of energy. How? With our closed valve negative energy. But when we tune in, turn on, and feel good, we open that magic valve to let our high vibrational flow flood through us. Now we feel alive, up, vibrant, energetic, excited, turned on, all better known as happy. Like the water pressure in our hose, the energy is always there, but we have to take purposeful, deliberate steps to open that rusty old valve if we want our high-frequency source energy to flow through. Having an open valve, feeling good, means positive energy is flowing to us, through us, and from us, and we're creating on purpose. Having a closed valve, anything that feeling good isn't, means we're flowing negative energy, resisting our natural flow, and creating by default. This doesn't mean that we have to be flapping around higher than a kite all day. All we have to do is squeak open our valve even a crack, and we instantly let in a little bit more of that life-giving flow. If we can find ways to feel just a tiny bit better than before, one little feeling at a time, then we've begun the reversal of a lifetime of negative attraction. So, in this idea of starting to think more and more in terms of energy, the question that I'm asking people, and that I want you to ask yourself every day, as often as it comes to your mind, is, and you can put it on a Post-it, that's what they're made for. They're made for us. Post-its were made for New Thought people, right? Because that's where you got to put those affirmations. Put them on a Post-it. How am I flowing my energy? How am I flowing my energy? Because every thought flows energy. Every thought you're thinking starts to summon energy. It summons the stream. Every thought is summoning the stream, the flow of that infinite energy, what they call in the Eastern traditions the Tao, the flow. You're summoning the stream with your thinking. So what you're focusing on, and the way you're focusing on it, is flowing energy. So when you stop periodically throughout the day and just say, how am I flowing my energy? Now, obviously what we want to do is we want to flow energy in a way that feels good, as we just read here. We want to feel good. Now, it doesn't mean feeling like skippity-doo-dah good. It can be feeling peaceful and rested. It's basically just not feeling bad. This stuff isn't hard. Feeling good doesn't feel bad. Brilliant, right? That's basically what it is. You know, A Course in Miracles, because Helen Schucman, who was described by the Course, had sort of, even though she was supposedly an atheist, which she really wasn't, she had a lot of religious training. And so she used religious words, and words that we now know are kind of problematic, words like love and fear, because they don't mean what we're used to them meaning when A Course in Miracles uses them. And even the Course in Miracles, you hear what people say, there's only two thought systems, love and fear, is really problematic because of what the mind thinks love is. It thinks of love as affection and a Hallmark card. That's not what the Course means. And fear, as in I'm afraid, it doesn't mean that, because it can mean hatred and jealousy and pain and loneliness and sorrow and grief and all these other things. So Abraham makes it real easy. There's just two thought systems. One feels good and one feels bad. That's all you have to do. This is how easy we're making this. You can just say, I know how I'm flowing my energy based on how I feel. So if I don't feel good, I'm flowing feel bad energy. So here's another little trick. You can just say, is that a valve closer or a valve opener? The thought that I have right now, the way I'm thinking right now, what I'm doing right now, what I'm watching on television, the book I'm reading, the conversation I'm engaged in, is this a valve opener or a valve closer? Then you decide, do I want my valve open or closed? If I'm watching something that I know is closing my valve, it's making me feel more stressed, more tension, more separation, more anger, that's a valve closer. I'm doing this to myself. I'm saying it's what's on the television that's doing it to me, but how many people here are watching television under court order? Anyone? Okay, then you're volunteering, right? You're volunteering to watch it and saying, this is upsetting. She understands. It's like, well, why are you watching this very disturbing thing? Because it's on. Well, so I have to be informed. Of feel bad things? Yes. I must be informed of all the feel bad things. Because that's what we do as responsible adults. We're aware of the feel bad things. Please do a Google alert of all the feel bad things that happened while I was asleep last night. I want to be alerted first thing in the morning of all the horrible shit that went down while I had the nerve to sleep, while other things were happening in the world, right? So you just start to think, oh, I'm doing this to myself. I'm doing this to myself. Is this a valve opener or is this a valve closer? All right. So then Edwin Gaines has a wonderful way, again, in this little book, The Four Spiritual Laws of Prosperity. Again, I'd been studying this stuff 20-some years when I got this book, and you just get these little hits of simplicity. Simplicity. The simpler you can make it, the closer you are to truth. God is extremely simple. The Course says only the ego is complex. God is very simple. So here's how she says it. Here's one sentence that just sums up the whole fucking thing. Remember, there are only two things ever going on in the universe at all times: circulation and congestion. That's it. That's all you need to know. That's all that's ever happening. Circulation and congestion. Congestion is basically illness, right? So whether it's your economy is congested, the flow in your body is congested, your relationship is congested, your work life is, that's some form of what we would call dis-ease, illness. Circulation is health. Circulation is wholeness, right? That's what we talk about, flowing the energy. How are you flowing your energy? Are you trying to flow it and then stopping it up? So that's why you look and you say, how am I flowing my energy? Now, desire flows energy. As soon as you have a desire, energy starts moving. That really is the greatest way that we summon the stream, is through desire. This is all Ernest Holmes basically was telling us, was that God as life is desire. And its desire is infinite multiplicity. What is that? Expansion. Expansion. That God as life desires to expand and express infinitely. As this and 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 this, right? So what happens with that energy stream is that when you desire, energy starts to move to the desire. Whatever the desire is, energy starts moving in that direction. The only problem with that is how much resistance we have about that desire. So if I desire prosperity, then that's the energy stream I'm tapping into that starts flowing. But if I have a lot of beliefs about rich people are assholes, money is a lot of responsibility, I don't know if I can trust myself with it, it's the only way to get money is to be corrupt, then that's the resistance. I have resistance to the thing that I want. So that's like Abraham would talk about. If you imagine it as a stream, then all the opposing thoughts are like sort of boulders in the bed of the stream. So when the stream hits it, that's the Whitewater Rapids, right? It feels very, because you've got two different things going on. The other analogy they use that I love is if you've got a slow-moving stream, see, this is the misunderstanding that sometimes quasi-spiritual groups get, which say you shouldn't have any desires, which is moronic and stupid and nothing spiritual about it. Make no mistake. But the reason that sometimes people think wanting or desire is horrible is because they've had this experience where they've summoned a lot of that energy and then had a lot of upset because of the resistance they had to it that created chaos. So they just think, oh yeah, I'd rather not want anything. I'm fine. I'll just be here. In fact, one of the questions that Abraham got, I remember this years and years ago, where this woman said, I'm very positive. I do all this. I come to your seminars, I read all the books. I've been in New Thought for years and years and years, and I have this catastrophic illness. And I have a friend, and she is as negative as anyone could possibly be, and she just is constantly negative about how horrible life is, and she's in perfect health. I don't get it. And Abraham said, your friend has a very slow-moving stream. Because she just believes life sucks, and she sees that everywhere. She says life sucks, nothing works out for her. That's a very slow-moving stream. So any resistance that she has in here, first of all, she doesn't have any resistance because she's perfectly in alignment with her belief. You understand? A lot of times we want things that we're not in alignment with. I want wealth and abundance, but I'm not in alignment with it at all because I believe it's hard and the economy's not right and I'm in the wrong industry and I'm too old and it doesn't work in this town and besides it's all stacked for the Republicans and da-da-da-da. So you have a lot of resistance. You understand? You said your friend has no resistance, she's in alignment and she's got a very slow-moving stream. You have a fast-moving stream because you want health and you want abundance and you want love and you want peace, but you have resistance. Right? So you can do one of two things. You can be like your friend, just not want anything and just relax, and your stream will slow down and you just have death to look forward to. That's fine if that's what you want to do. Or you can relax, because in relaxing, you drop the oars and go downstream. And you get far less specific in your wanting. You get more general. More general, and instead of saying, I'm going to make $100,000 this quarter. That's too specific if you've got resistance in your stream. So you relax the resistance by saying, I'm going to be very abundant this quarter. I don't know how. I'm going to be very abundant this quarter. I'm very open to receive financial abundance this quarter. Now you've relaxed because you're not specific of, how would I make $100,000? I've only made $10 this quarter. Right? you begin to relax. So the other way Abraham talks about it that's also very graphic that I love, they say, if you're going 2 miles an hour and hit a tree, it's not that big a deal. But if you're going 100 miles an hour and hit a tree, it's a different deal. Right? So you just realize, resistance is how the energy hits. The energy hits the resistance. So my job is mostly to relax my resistance. Relax my resistance. Relax my resistance. That's it. What you want is just natural. You can't not want. It's a world of contrast. A lot of people talk themselves out of what they want, but it doesn't stop them from wanting what they want. They're just sort of operating over it. And because it's a world of contrast, every situation has you wanting something. When someone's mean to you, you want them to be nice. Again, complex stuff, right? When you're broke, you want some money. When you're sick, you want to be well. When you're lonely, you want a friend. Duh. Right? It's just, how in alignment are you with that? That's why we talk so much about writing your own story. You are writing your own story, but make sure you're writing it as a story of alignment instead of a story about misalignment. To get that, this is what we talked about last month, and I'm talking about more and more. This idea of the law of attraction is very misunderstood because you're not attracting anything. You never have. The law of attraction is what you are attracted to. It is what you are attracted to. Nothing is coming, nothing is on the way. No mate is on the way, no money is on the way, no job is on the way, no nothing is on the way. Nothing, 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 nothing is on the way. Stop waiting, call off the search, bring in the dogs, nothing's coming. Everything is already here. In the moment of creation, everything was given. It's all right here. All the problem is our eyes are tuned to something else. You see what you believe. You don't believe what you see what you believe. So if you believe there's no money, there'd be money falling from the ceiling, and you won't see a nickel of it. Because you're not tuned in. It's already here. Everything you want is already here, waiting for you to change the channel. If I'm watching CNN, that doesn't mean ABC is not broadcasting at that time. I don't have to sit and affirm, I'm willing to see ABC, I'm willing to see ABC. I'm attracting ABC, I'm attracting ABC shows, I'm attracting Modern Family. I'm attracting Modern Family. Nothing's going to move. Nothing's coming to you. You can't attract anything. It's already being broadcast, but you have to change your fucking channel. We are receivers of vibration. Right? We're tuners. We tune, just like you tune. Well, this is how old I am. Jacob, what are you doing? What is that? 1 million years ago, when the earth was cooling, there were television sets. They had knobs that you would turn. And before that, if you didn't have cable, you might have rabbit ears. That's when you were really working to tune in, right? But that should show you, if you have ever had that experience where, even on the old radios where you had to tune, you had to get right locked onto the station. If you were just a little bit off, you were not going to get a clear signal, right? So that's why Ernest Holmes says the treatment never leaves the practitioner's mind. All the work is here. It's all consciousness. It's all our consciousness moving. Nothing moves but mind. I just figured that out recently. I heard that 30 years ago. I just figured that out recently. Nothing moves but mind. The signal doesn't move. God doesn't move. We move. As the receiver, we lock onto the signal. The signal which is, things work out well for me. Abundance loves me. I'm always at the right place at the right time. People love me and I love people. You lock on to that signal. And you begin to realize more and more that everything that opposes that is just what I like to call bullshit. I want you to hear that in your head from now on. Anytime you start to go into your story, I want you to hear me say, bullshit! Just maybe you'll get a sentence or two into arguing for your limitations. Well, because da-da-da-da, and then you'll hear me go, bullshit! And you go, oh, all things are possible, sorry. That's what I meant to say. All things are possible. Because that's it, is that we have these stories about why it can't happen for us, why it's not possible, why this, why that. One of the things that the great Saint LL Cool J says, I just heard this recently, this is my new hashtag, is DDHD, dreams don't have deadlines. Dreams don't have deadlines. Now, this is, I didn't actually hear him say this, but I read this somewhere that he says this, that it was in, I think maybe it was an interview that he was having maybe with Oprah or somebody like that, where they were saying, because, LL Cool J has done a lot of things. He started out as a rapper, and then he started doing a little bit acting on television shows and stuff like that, started becoming a bodybuilder, wrote bodybuilding books, started doing movies. Now he's on NCIS LA. So he's done a lot of different things. And I think it was Oprah who was saying to him about all these, how he just keeps expanding, doing more things and doing different things. And that was his answer, was dreams don't have deadlines. That you just keep expanding as you go. You keep growing and expanding. If something interests you, you go in that direction. Now, most of us do that up to a point, and then we start telling a story about how we can't because, well, I'm too old, or I don't live in the right place, or I have all these other responsibilities, not realizing, again, what we say here all the time, which is how is not your part. Figuring out the how that is not your part, that's the universe's part. The universe will figure out the how if you just keep relaxing your resistance and knowing that it's possible and going for it in consciousness. Not even going for it necessarily in any action, but going for it in consciousness. The very week that I heard this, it was so great. It's so great because when you're on the station, then you see all the shows that station broadcasts. Duh. Right? Again, so simple. When you tune on to the Prosperity Channel, they don't show poor shows. They just show the abundance shows. Right? When you lock on the Happy Relationship Channel, all they show are the happy relationships. So the very reason I heard that, I don't know why, it just sunk into my head. Dreams don't have deadlines. Because I want you to think about any era of your life where you're saying it's too late. And remember, Terry Cole Whitaker, I always say, when people say to her, I'm on a fixed income, she says, who fixed it? Right? If you're living on a fixed income, you fixed it. You have a fixed consciousness. You're saying, well, the power that makes planets revolve around the sun, hands are really tied because I'm on a fixed income. Jesus raised Lazarus But I'm on Social Security. So, you understand. It's not gonna work here, right? Or I have psoriasis, right? I can't whatever because I have this thing. There's something. It's just your fucking story. Bullshit. That's all I want to say, just that. Okay, so the very week that I heard this thing of dreams don't have deadlines, a friend of mine wanted to have lunch, and I knew a lot about his family and his history and all that, and I knew that his parents were both artists. And that they were artists all the time that he was growing up. There were certain things I did not know. His father died 10 or 15 years ago, and he actually made a documentary about his father and his father's artwork, and since his father's passed away, he has spent a lot of time selling his father's artwork, so seeing to it that it's been put in galleries and all of these kinds of things. His mother is also an artist. His mother is still alive. His mother is 97 years old, and she is still doing art, and she is, in fact, one of my friends who comes to the Santa Barbara lectures was saying to me, and she was saying, and she's like an organizer, like she organizes people, and so she had gone to this woman's house, this 97-year-old artist's house, to help organize her, and she said basically she wouldn't get rid of anything because it was all her art. And it was just stacks and stacks, and she paints and she does this, but she also does fabrics, and there were all these fabrics, and she would let go of any of them, but it was just like her house is just like a museum of all this art and stuff. And so my friend was saying to me that, first of all, he was saying, and I didn't really know this, he said, you know, my father was a carpenter, which means that our house was never finished, okay? The cobbler's children. So, because he was always working on it and he would never finish anything. And he was an alcoholic and we had a lot of ups and downs. So, you know, we would have a lot of stuff and then he would lose his job and then everything would get repossessed and then we would have Salvation Army furniture and so things would just in flux kind of all the time. So my friend was saying that also his parents as artists were so passionate about their art that was mostly what they thought about all the time and did all the time. And so he said, it's not that we didn't have food on the table, he said, but sometimes there was no wall. So they would just hang art fabric and say, it's a wall. Because they were just thinking about art. They weren't thinking about the kids need new clothes or any of this kind of thing. They were just into the art. So he told a story about, he said, when he was a teenager, he went out and got a job so that he would have some money to do some things like, you know, and he was so proud, and he went home to tell his dad. He said his dad was sitting there drawing, doing his artwork, and he said, Dad, I went out and got a job today, waiting for a little approval. And his dad said, what'd you do that for? Like, what are you, what? Like, you're supposed to do what you're passionate about. What are you doing? Now you're working for the man. You know? So, different consciousnesses, right? Different wanting creates different experiences in the same house. Different desires in the same house create different experiences. They're all living in the same house, having different experiences of that very house. So my friend developed a prosperity consciousness. It was important to him to have a house with walls. Know where the next meal's coming from, not live hand to foot. So he's been studying this stuff for many, many years, has come to my groups for many, many years. So he was telling me, though, that now his mother, who's 97, and she has some dementia, so he basically quit his job to more or less help sort of organize, take care of her, the caretakers that come in for her. But at 97 years old, she still walks to the store herself and, like, doesn't want anyone telling her what to do, all this kind of stuff. She's, like, you know. And I wish you could see her. She's just fucking gorgeous. Just elegant, like she reminds me, she's not, but she just has that sort of style of like Beatrice Wood. You know, kind of the hair's all pulled back and she's got the scarf and she's like, I'm trying to dress like her. She's kind of like, you know, very, but anyhow, so he told me at this lunch, he said, this #1 art buyer in the world contacted them to come fly to California to her house to look at her art because she's like the fucking hot artist. At 97 years old, her art career has taken off because dreams don't have deadlines. Do you understand? Now, but do you really understand? Do you? Because it's not different art than she had 50 years ago. It's the consciousness of her son. Do you see? You understand? Her son has a consciousness of abundance. So when he took over, the art sold because he had a different belief about it. It's the same fucking art. We think it's the product. We think it's our body. We think it's our mate. We think it's the town we live in. It's not. It's your fucking consciousness and story about it. Bullshit! It's not my art isn't selling because I'm not doing better art. Because somebody else could take that exact same art and sell it and make your career take off. If they had the consciousness for that. Because crap sells as good as fine art. Right? You can become president with no qualifications whatsoever if you have the consciousness, right? And you can have all the skills and talents and abilities to run this country like a fine-tuned machine, but if you don't have the consciousness for it, you're not going to be president. It's your story. It's your belief. That's what's creating the stream. And how, the one thing that we can certainly say about Donald Trump is that he is in alignment with his desires. He does not have a lot of resistance about what he wants. He is perfectly in alignment about what he wants. It is our ambivalence about what we want that keeps us from experiencing a nice, smooth, moving stream. Maybe I shouldn't have it. Maybe it's not right. Maybe it's too late. Maybe other people would be jealous of me. Maybe I don't have enough talent. Maybe I'm not living in the right town. Maybe. Bullshit! Do you think you'll hear me saying this? Maybe you'll hear it. That's what you want to do, is to just keep busting yourself on the story. To bust yourself on your story of I can't, and to begin encouraging yourself in the story of yes, I can. Yes, I can. I don't have to know how. I just have to get in alignment with it. I have to relax. This same friend said to me, the reason he took me out for lunch was, he said, we went to this restaurant that's just down the street from where I live, called Fig and Olive, which I'd always wanted to go to, but it opens too late for me. It opens at noon. You know, I have a lunch around 11, because I'm a senior citizen. I get up at like 4:30 in the morning. I'm starving for lunch. So he said, I want to get Fig and Olive. I said, okay, great. So we met like 12:30. And I didn't even know whether, he said, oh, it's Mediterranean. And so he said, this is how we order, and this is what we're going to have. We had this, all this great stuff. And so he said, Spirit told me to take you to Italy. I was like, what? Italy? What? Because honestly, he could have said any fucking other place in the world, and I would have been like, I don't think so. I have not been on a plane since 2001. I've not been outside of California, Southern California, since 2001. The farthest I've been since 2001 is Santa Barbara, San Diego, Palm Springs. That's the furthest I have been since 2001, because I don't see any reason to ever leave Southern California. It took me a long fucking time to get here, and once I was here, I was like, why would you go anywhere else? So I don't go anywhere. And I haven't had a vacation since the 70s. That's the honest to God's truth. I have gone places overnight for 2 nights maximum. I have not been away from my own bed for more than 2 nights in decades. And I have no interest about the world at all. That sounds impossible, doesn't it? I have zero interest in the world at all. Not the least bit curious about anything that's going on out there. I must have lived 100 past lives and been everywhere and been like, who cares? Pompeii, been there. Some of my ashes still there. No interest whatsoever. So the fact that he said Italy, it was like, yes. Italy. I don't know why. I just love the Italians. Italians have always had a big impact. Italians and Jews. I don't know what it is. The biggest figures in my life have, like in a positive way, have been Jews and Italians. And I just, once he said Italy, then I thought about all the shows and movies that I watch about Italy all the time. And just how I just love the whole thing. So we're going to Carnival in Venice in February. Because if you're gonna leave town for the first time in decades and leave the country for the first time ever, don't just go to Italy, go to a big fucking party in Italy with costumes and craziness. So, it was so interesting because he said, Spirit told me to take you to Italy. And I was like, Spirit knows me. Like, Spirit was like, take him to Italy. So, and all I've thought about, of course, is the food. Like all the places, I'm like, that'll be fine. The food. All I think about is then what will we eat? And what kind of wine will we have with that? Right? But that's the result of me consciously speeding up my stream. Because the last couple of months, that's been my focus, is speeding up my stream. Because I've spent a lot of time consciously having a pretty slow moving stream. And part of the reason for that is because those of you who've come for a long time know, one of the reasons I got into all of this, certainly with A Course in Miracles, had to do with how much anxiety I grew up with. So I had enormous anxiety and just shy of panic attacks. I would break out in hives and I had all kinds of physical symptoms and everything. I always said I'm a metaphysician and a hypochondriac, which is very difficult. Okay? So speeding up my stream would make me anxious. When I would get a lot of stuff going on, my anxiety would kick up. So I'm very comfortable. I may be somewhere on high functioning autism spectrum. Somewhere in there. Because I love spending a lot of time alone. I never get tired of being alone. And I like things to be predictable and the same basic schedule all the time. And most things in the world don't interest me that much, but if I'm interested in something, it's practically all I fucking think about. And that's been my work, basically, is all I really think about is food, sex, and God. That's just all I think about. That's pretty much all that's going on in my head all the time. And I don't really have sex anymore, so that I'm just getting fat and covering it up. I'm just drinking and eating and reading about God all the time, and that's pretty much it. If I could get laid more, I might take off 2 pounds. Maybe in Venice, I don't know. But so I had a pretty slow moving stream, and then I got to the point where I was like, just, the image that I have, because I watch more television than anyone in the world, as far as I can tell. Most of my images have to do with television, so I think about that I Love Lucy episode where she was on the candy line, where they were wrapping all the candies, and then the head woman comes in who's running the thing and sees that she's doing okay and goes, "Speed it up a little!" I said that to my stream. Italy. When you speed up your stream, then you have to relax. You have to relax when you speed up your stream because things will start moving. Things that have been blocked up there. They've been waiting for you to relax so that they could float through, right? So as soon as I said yes, then I had anxiety. But see, what you do is you just keep relaxing. That's what we do. That's why we have all these fucking tools. I will lay there in bed and toss and turn with anxiety, and I'll just go, the only thing that's really true right now is man laying in bed. Right? That's our Byron Katie. Right? This is why we have all these tools, because nothing's happening outside of here. Nothing is happening outside it, because my mind will go into all these, well, what will I do? And what about my emails? And what about this? And then I'm going to be here. I'm going to go there. What if they do this? The television is going to be in Italian. Well, no, but I mean, just in general, just everything. My mind will just go to a million miles of a million different things that I am not in control of. So you just keep soothing yourself, right? You just keep saying, is that a valve opener or a valve closer? Am I soothing myself or tormenting myself? How can I think a thought that just has a little bit more breathing space than this? The only thing that's going on is congestion or circulation. My fear thoughts are congesting this. How can I relax to let the energy flow again? So you tell yourself better feeling stories. You use all these tools we have. That I've scripted a story where I'm back from Italy. Right? You write down, we had such an amazing time in Italy, and it was like this, and it was just so much fun, and it all went without a hitch, and we met all these interesting people, and we ate all this great food, and the travel was easy. We just made all our connections at the perfect time, and all, right? You start to tell that story. You move into the place of it's already done, it already unfolded. You don't know how. It just did. You're just talking about it was so wonderful, right? That's our Edwin Gaines story about what? Olives with almonds in them, right? How many people know the olives with almonds in them story? No? Oh, good. I'm going to tell the story. So in this book, this changed my life and the life of so many people who've studied with me because of what I got out of it. When I started many years ago with Terry Cole Whitaker, something that you would hear a lot in sort of New Thought metaphysical circles was act as if. Act as if, act as if. But nobody could really tell you what that meant exactly. Like, you could sort of get the sense of what that was, because basically you have to already be in the consciousness of the goal accomplished. Because that's what makes you a vibrational match to it, is being in the place of, in other words, Donald Trump already knew he was president. You understand? He already had the consciousness of, there's no fucking way I'm losing this. I could walk out on the street and shoot someone and I would still become president. He was in that consciousness. Most of us have a little more doubt than that. Okay? We question ourselves a little more than that. So, Edwin Gaines, I'd heard a couple stories. One was from Jack Canfield, who's one of the co-authors of the Chicken Soup for the Soul books. He tells a story in The Success Principles about a success seminar that he was in years before he'd written a book, and it was like a class of maybe 20 or 30 people or something like that, where they were taught how to do this principle, that at the end of the class, to sort of sum up the 10 weeks or whatever, they had a party that was called Come As You Will Be in 10 Years. So whatever was your dream or your goal or whatever, they had a party at this hotel or banquet room or whatever, and everyone came dressed and as they would be in 10 years. And then you introduced yourself, and everybody just accepted that that was so. So for Jack Canfield, that was, I've, written this bestseller, and it's a New York Times bestseller, and it's da-da-da-da, another. But I want you to hear the level of commitment, because this is something we're going to talk about here too. There was a woman who wanted to be an actress, so she had them set up a red carpet outside, and she hired people as fans and photographers. So that when she arrived, people would be asking for her autograph, people would be taking her pictures, you understand, it was about having the entire visceral experience as it is done. I'm living it now. Now, of course, we all know that Jack Canfield is now a multi-millionaire who lives in Hope Ranch, and he just shits out bestsellers. Because he doesn't even write those books. That's just like a machine. They just put his name on them. Other people are writing those books, and his name just goes on them. That's consciousness. That's downstream living. That's an open valve in alignment, okay? So then Edwin Gaines was told by her teacher, she said, the reason that you're doing all these prosperity affirmations, you have all these goals, but the reason that it's not happening is because you don't feel rich. So you're living like a tightwad. So all these affirmations and goal setting is not doing you any good because you still think like a poor person. so she said, you need to feel rich. And she said, well, yeah, how can I feel rich? And she said, well, you need to do something that makes you feel abundant. And Edwene said the place where she was the biggest tightwad was at the grocery store. She said, I lived on a budget, and I was not 5 cents off that budget. And it was the budget for the month, and I went and bought my groceries, and if we ran out of groceries by the end of the month, then we were just hungry until it was time for next month. So she realized that that's where she really needed, because that's where she lived in the most scarcity, that was where she needed to really start to feel abundant. So she said, now this would have been like in the 1970s probably, maybe early 80s, where she said, so she was at the grocery store trying to feel abundant, and she said, I saw this jar of olives with almonds in them. And she said, it was like, I don't know, it was not that much, but to her it was like that was throw her budget off. If she bought, but she said, I just knew that's what rich people had. You know, on your head, like, rich people, they just have olives with almonds in them. I'm sure that's what Alexis Carrington is having right now, is olives with almonds in them. So she got this jar of olives with almonds in them. And one of her goals was to take a trip to Mexico. And so that was the thing that she was working on at the time, was this consciousness of taking this trip to Mexico. So she called her friend Lana, and she said, Lana, I'm gonna come over, and I'm gonna bring this jar of olives with almonds in them, and you're gonna get out your good, whatever, hors d'oeuvre bowl and your wine glasses, and we're gonna have a bottle of wine, and we're gonna eat these olives with almonds, and we're gonna pretend that we're in Mexico City, and that we're seeing the temples and the ruins and the blah, 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 blah. And Lana was like, what? She said, we're gonna pretend, okay? So she said, okay. So they sat around basically around the pool at this apartment complex and got shit-faced, pretending they were in Mexico, eating these olives with almonds in them, and just talking about the great day they had, sightseeing and touring and da-da-da-da. And then she tells the story of basically the manifestation that happened at the 11th hour, in which basically, because it was so much fun that night, then Lana said, well, I want to go too. So she booked a ticket, and her mother ended up paying for her ticket. And so Edwene still didn't have any money, and the travel agent called and said, if you don't pay for the ticket today, you can't go. So she said, so I went over to my mother's house just sort of thinking if I told her that Lana's mother had paid for her ticket, that maybe Mom would pay for my ticket. So I went over and I said, oh, Lana's mother paid for her ticket. And my mother said, that's wonderful. What are you going to do? She said, I don't know. And so she was going out to get in the car, and her mother said, would you get my mail? Because it was a long drive. And so she didn't want to buy. So Edwene went and got the mail, and there was a letter for her. And she said, I had not lived with my mother for 15 years. So the fact that there was a letter from me in my mother's mail was extremely weird. So I opened this, and it's a letter. She said, I didn't recognize the name on the return or the return address. Well, what it was it was a letter from a roommate that she had like 16 years prior, something like that. Well, they had lived together when she was just finishing college and getting her teaching degree, and so they bought all this furniture at the Salvation Army, and then when Edwene got her job, which was overseas, to teach like in Japan or something for a year, she just left. And so the woman had subsequently gotten married. That's why she didn't recognize the name, because it wasn't her maiden name anymore. And the woman had gotten married and sold all that junk furniture, which turned out to be antiques. So it was a nice little sum of money. And she said, so I didn't feel right about keeping all of it. It seemed like, because it was hard for us to get at the time, so I wanted to send you half of it. And since I lost track of you, I just thought I would send it to your mother and hope that this would get to you. And she said it was exactly the price of the ticket plus $100. Okay, I'm just saying. Then she had to get into the space of the consciousness of it's already happened in order to relax enough to let the stream deliver the exact right time in the exact right way. But the main thing was her commitment. One of the things in this book that's so powerful that I had also never... Terry had talked a lot about commitment, but I love this thing that Edwene says in here where she says, just get this, okay? Your support team doesn't show up until after you make the commitment. So many times we're waiting for the partners to show up so that we can really get committed. They don't show up till you've made the commitment. So if you go on my website, or not on my website, well, if you go on my website and then go to the Facebook link, I posted a video of Jack Boland, who started the Church of Today in Detroit and who died like in 1992. And he tells the story in there about, and it shows video of the church and all this stuff, so it's really worth seeing. But he tells the story of being a Unity minister who was sent to Detroit, to this little brick church, to be the Unity minister there. And people were coming and it was going okay, but it really wasn't growing that fast. It wasn't really fitting his vision, so on and so forth. So what he tells in this story is he said, I realized at a certain point that, because he had gotten a call from another church out of state, and he had actually accepted the call and was going to go. And then it was like Spirit just stopped him. And you know how it does that sometimes. Sometimes it says you're going to Italy. Sometimes it just says, not so fucking fast, going to this other church. So it stopped Jack for a minute, and he started to realize that he had been committed. This is so good, because haven't we all been here? He was committed. His commitment to Detroit was this: I'm committed to seeing if it works out. Have you ever been there? I'm committed to seeing if this works out. So there's not a lot of stream moving there. That is not a very powerful summoning current of, I'm committed to seeing if this works out. And if it doesn't, then I'll just go to another church, right? So when he had that realization, he said, I had committed, but not to Detroit. He'd committed to being a Unity minister, but he had not committed to Detroit. So he decided to commit to Detroit, and as soon as he decided to commit to Detroit is when everything took off. Because it's not until you summon the energy through your commitment that things start to move in that direction. It doesn't even have to be something as specific as that. If it's your commitment to joy, you understand? It can just be, I'm just committed to, I had no interest in visiting Italy at all. Never thought, oh, maybe I'll go to Italy someday. But what I had committed to was my stream moving faster and bringing more joy into my life. And then that was Italy. You understand? It doesn't have to be specific, but oftentimes it is. Terry used to say, the thing you're waiting to have happen before you make the commitment happens after you make the commitment. The thing you're waiting to have happen before you make the commitment happens after you make the commitment. So after Jack Boland made the commitment, that's when they moved in, they bought property, they built the original church, they outgrew the original church, they built onto it, so that now they have this enormous church. Now, that church has struggled a lot. I saw a year ago or so where they were going to sell the building. I don't think they have. But why? Jack Boland died. Jack Boland was the summoner. Do you get that? The second consciousness is withdrawn from something, it rots. Consciousness animates matter. The second your spirit leaves your body, it's dead meat. That's it. We get that. As soon as your spirit leaves your body, boom, it begins to decay and rot because there's nothing holding it together. Consciousness forms everything. So it's true in every aspect of your life. As soon as your consciousness starts to leave the job will start to fall to shit. As soon as your consciousness starts to leave the relationship will start to fall to shit. If you're not present and committed, stuff starts to fall to shit. Now, again, the question then becomes this, and write this the fuck down. This is a big question for you to ask yourself honestly, and the only way you can do it is if you eliminate the word should. So I want you to take the word should entirely out of this. But you need to ask yourself and write down, don't make this a quick thing. Do this over a period of time. What am I committed to? Not, well, I should be committed to this. That's not going to do you one fucking bit of good. It's what am I committed to right now? And then you can start to choose from there. This, again, I can't recommend highly enough this Edwin Gaines book because there's so many little gems in it, like this one. Your goals should sound fun to you. What? I was 20, 30 fucking years into goal setting because I was setting goals back in Pennsylvania before anyone, what do you mean they're supposed to be fun? Because almost nobody's goals are fun. Almost everybody's goals are things they should do because that's what they say you should do. And that's why we have hideous experiences with goal setting, because they're not really your goals. They're the culture's goals. They're the goals of the family that you grew up in. They're the goals of the organization that you belong to. Your goals will sound fun to you. That's how you can go downstream, is they will enliven you. They will bring passion and interest. Like my friend with his parents, their art was a joy to them. So when we say fun, we don't mean like, like maybe it might be that kind of fun. But like I have a friend who, David Kessler, he's come and spoken in San Diego before, and his whole thing is about grief and death and dying. And so that's his passion in life. So he's not yippity-skippity-doo-dying into people's death rooms and saying, isn't this fun? Right? Do you see the light yet? Like, it's not that kind of joy. It's a different kind of joy and passion and satisfaction and feeling of this enlivens me, this is what I want to do. I love writing these books that help people and their families around death and dying. So you understand what I mean by fun. Is it doesn't sound like that's a drag, I guess I'll make myself do it. After all, when you get to be this age, that's the thing you do next, and I should do it now, and blah, blah. That shouldn't be your goal. Or, oh, well, listen, I just decided to stop hating my body and just cover it appropriately. You understand? Because I had all these goals about like, well, there's illness in my family and I probably have heart. I don't have a doctor because I don't want to know. So I may have heart disease and high blood pressure, diabetes, and everything else because of the way I eat and my incredible lack of exercise or caring. So I've often had these goals of getting in better health and exercise, which has led to me gaining 30 pounds. Because that's what exercise and diet does when you're trying to change your body. When you're doing it because it's a fun goal for you, it'll work. If you don't, it'll work for a while, then you'll go back. Then it'll work for a while. Hello, Oprah. Right? You're just constantly going back and forth because it's not really what you want. It's what your doctor said or what the culture said or what Instagram said. Right? But if you're doing it because you're in that game, this is what I want to do, this is how I want to eat. You understand? It's a huge difference. And I realized that I've gained 30 pounds from trying to take care of myself, but not wanting to. What I want is to fucking eat. I have dropped the war with my body and my metabolism and my appetite and bought flowing clothes. This is the happiest time of my life so far. I only did this because I could not find a really smart male caftan. I may start to design Course in Miracles caftans. I'm not sure yet. We'll just see what happens. I'm completely willing to cross-dress. No, I have no fear about that. I just haven't found anything just yet. But I stopped setting goals that are not really my goals. Goals that I should have because da-da-da-da. I should be saving money. I don't want to fucking save money. I want to spend money. Okay? I'm more than willing to bring in tons more money, but I don't want to save money. I don't know how. Doesn't sound fun to me. I just don't want to do it. I want endless raises. This is easy to do when you are part of the monarchy. Did you know I was part of the monarchy? Some of you knew this. I married Jesus. I'm part of the Christ family. That's the monarchy. My name is Jacob Christ. I married the Prince of Peace. That makes me the Princess of Peace. For years, I lived in a place I called the WeHo Zendo. I now live in Christ Castle, Palace of the Angels. Do you know your whole life is a story in your head, right? Don't you like my stories? Don't you think maybe you might upgrade your story now? Don't you want to have a better story than I'm a house owner with a mortgage? When you could be living in the Palace of Angels in Christ Castle? I live in this huge apartment complex in West Hollywood on Kings Road. It is called the Kings Road Apartments. Those of you who've been with me for a while know that anytime I move in any place, they remodel. That's just my consciousness. I don't want them to. I don't think about it. It's just what happens. You have a consciousness, and you take it with you wherever you fucking go. Ernest Holmes talks about this. Every person has an environment around them that they've created through their consciousness. So it doesn't matter where the fuck I go. When I get in, 2 weeks later, they go, "We're remodeling." I'm like, I know. I understand. My father remodeled our house the entire time I was growing up, and now everywhere I go, the second I get there, people say, "This could be better." And they do. And that's just exactly what happens. They're remodeling the Unity Church in Santa Barbara that I've been lecturing at for 30 years. They're remodeling it for the third time since I've been there. Because afterward they just go, "We have to do it again," right? So I'm living in this very old apartment building in West Hollywood. And of course, the second I got there, that's it. We got to remodel this place. And so parts of it, like the exterior, my apartment is very nice because they redid the interiors already, and now they're doing the exterior. But the inside of it, just the building itself, is pretty crappy. And when you walk around, I was feeling for a while like this is like when I have people come to see me for private sessions and stuff, until they get to my apartment, it's kind of like creepy, like it's all stained and this and that. But what do you expect from a castle? Castles are always old and crumbling and being remodeled, right? So what is the story that you're telling yourself? What is the story that you're telling yourself? That's what's summoning your stream. That's how much in alignment with your stream you are. That's how much joy you're allowing yourself. And so I have all these stories that go on all the time that are constantly about encouraging and uplifting myself and allowing more good in. And making the best of things instead of making the worst of things. And because of that, there's expansion and ease instead of struggling expansion, suffering expansion. How I started this was that Jack Boland, once Jack Boland died, that church really, they have a lot, because they haven't brought in somebody that summons at that level. And part of that is that Jack Boland was the one, if you're familiar with this, and I'd done this for years, he was the one who created the Mastermind Goal Achievers Journal. Because what really started Jack Boland and Jack Boland was a huge fucking deal in New Thought. Huge deal. They had the biggest Unity church in the movement in Detroit. I spoke there a couple of times when Marianne Williamson was the spiritual leader there. Their bookstore there was the size of a Barnes & Noble. That's how big this church is. The sanctuary had 10 professional TV cameras that taped the Sunday services and aired them everywhere. This was a huge... Oprah had bought them the coffee shop they had. And so the coffee shop was probably as big as this sanctuary, with like espresso machines and art all over the walls and these gorgeous lights that Oprah had bought and all this kind of stuff going on. So it was a huge place. Well, Jack Boland, in fact, at Jack Boland's funeral, it's on this video, you see. Wayne Dyer spoke of him and said that Jack Boland was his spiritual father, because, you know, Wayne Dyer was brought up in foster care. So he said that Jack Boland was basically his father and his mentor in life. Well, Jack Boland had first gotten sober, so he had the 12 steps. And then he discovered, as many of these people do, Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. Well, what he did was he took the 12 steps of AA and merged them together with Think and Grow Rich to create what he called the Mastermind Goal Achievers Journal. And they did that every year. And that was all about these, when you hear about mastermind groups, a lot of times they're formed through that Jack Boland model that has these, I don't think it's 12 steps, but he has like 8 steps or something, which is that you set all your goals for the year, and you meet with people. The whole thing of mastermind is you have to have at least one other person. So you meet with them either every week or once a month. You could meet virtually. But the idea is that you are aligning over your goals and intentions. So you would set your whole year's worth of goals, your big goals. Then you would have monthly goals. Then you have weekly goals. You understand? But this is this is not the kind of goal setting where then you hit the ground running and go out and make shit happen. You're using principle. Yes, you're probably going to be busy. There's probably going to be a lot going on, but it doesn't come from strategizing. Right? It comes in those ways of like somebody invites you to lunch and says, God told me to take you to Italy. Right? It's kind of woo-woo. There's a lot of fucking woo-woo going on. Have you noticed? There's a lot of woo-woo in this stuff. You got to get in alignment with the woo-woo. You can't be afraid of the woo-woo. Right? There's going to be lots of woo-woo happening. But listen. One of the other great teachers I love so much was Stephen Covey, and his big thing was the same basic idea, which is you have to have a life mission statement, because that's what summons the energy in your life. And you have to set the tone of everything in order to summon the energy that you want towards that. So it's very clear to me, maybe not to you, but there is not a single meeting that I ever have where my mission statement does not get stated. Now, you might not know that, but you align with it if you're listening and paying attention, because in every single meeting I ever have, I say, we fold this into our group intention, which is, as always, the healing of our minds, our restoration to joy and sanity and inner peace. That's the mission statement. Everything in my life moves towards that. Every book I've written, every talk I've given, every video I've made, every blog I've written, everything is moving in the direction of that. That's the flow of my entire life. The healing of our minds, our restoration to joy and sanity and inner peace. That's what moves the stream in that direction. That's how I'm still doing this 30 years in, with no fucking advertising. There's not anything in the paper that says I'm coming. People have to find out about me. That's what happens when you have this clear consciousness about something. So that's why you want to stop frequently and say, what am I committed to? Well, that's my number one commitment. That's very clear. I have no ambivalence about that whatsoever. You notice it doesn't say how. I didn't know how. I have no idea how. That's the woo-woo part. If I thought I had to know how, I would just sit and cry all day. Because people are irritating. Like if I thought I had to heal people and restore them to sanity and inner peace, I would just sit and cry in a fucking corner all day. Right? It's hard to even get anyone to let you in traffic, much less heal them, bring them back to sanity, joy, and inner peace. I don't know how. Then the stream figures that part out, right? I don't know how. So you just start and look, what else am I committed to? I do morning pages every day, 365 days a year, which are not those fucked up Julia Cameron pages. Don't do those. There's nothing more fucking depressing than the Artist's Way morning pages. Don't ever fucking do those. Unless you really like being depressed, then I would say go ahead and sit down and spew out your negativity every morning for a little while. And also pay attention to the depressed person who's teaching you to do that. A depressed teacher cannot teach you about joy. No, our daily pages are what went right, what I'm grateful for, what are my intentions for today, where I got it right yesterday, and what I'm flowing positive energy to. 365 days a year, I'm committed to doing that. I do that every single day because I'm committed to doing that. I'm committed to wine at lunch every day, whether I feel like it or not. Committed to it. I can tell because I do it. That's how you can tell what you're committed to. Did you know that? That's how you can tell. If you're not sure what you're committed to, just look at your day. That's what you're committed to. A lot of people are just very, very committed to their coffee. Write it down so you know I am absolutely 100% committed to this much caffeine every day. Take all the shoulds out of it. Take everything out of it. Look at it with complete non-judgment witnessing. Just witnessing it. Because a lot of times people think, I'm not very committed, I don't know. You're committed to many, many things. This will start to teach you how committed you are. Because you'll see that where you're committed is where you're showing up and how you're showing up. A friend of mine said, as we've gone through all this process recently, said, I just realized that I'm committed to this, and this. What I've not been committed to is myself. So that's a pretty big thing to realize. She just turned 60. It's like, well, how good to know that now? That at 60, I have been committed to this. I've been committed to all these things out here, but not me. I've been committed to trying to, make more money and pay the bills and please my family and take care of this and da-da-da-da. And I just realized I have not been committed to myself at all. So then you can make a choice and say, well, I want to be committed to myself, and what does that mean? Because it means, I can absolutely guarantee you, it means showing up in some way. Not in some way that the culture tells you, or that you read in O Magazine, or that you any fucking thing out there. It's what does it mean to you to commit to you? What does that mean? Or anything else, or to your well-being, or to your abundance, or to your joy in life, or to anything else, is to start to look and see, here's where I'm currently committed. And here's what you can also do. I got this from a friend years ago that I loved, where she said, because we were involved sometimes in these fucked up commitment things where it's like, once you were committed, it was almost like Scientology, like you're in for fucking life now. You can't get out now. And if you did, then there was a big deal about, you broke your word and you broke your commitment, you're out of integrity, and you're da-da-da, this and all this shame and stuff and make you feeling horrible. And so what she learned was, she would say, I'm withdrawing my commitment. I love that. I am withdrawing my commitment. I am a free human being. I can give my commitment, and when I see that it's abusive or it's not working, then I can withdraw my commitment. This is not serving me or you or whatever. I can withdraw my commitment. So you can look at your life and see, instead of making it wrong and bad and horrible, you can see, this is what I was committed to, and now I'm withdrawing my commitment from that. Well, maybe you're committed to feeling guilty, taking the blame for everything. You could withdraw that commitment. I'm just withdrawing my commitment to that. One of the things that we're going to be talking about later on in the month, well, actually next week in Santa Barbara, is this. Last month we were talking about I am powerful. This is so important to get, that you're powerful. That we are. This infinite power is seated in us. Now, next week in Santa Barbara we're talking about I am worthy. Because a lot of people like me who were raised in the Catholic Church spent many years in Mass where you say out loud all the time, God, I am not worthy to receive you, but only say, if you're affirming that you're not worthy, you need to withdraw that fucking affirmation. And the way you withdraw it is by the opposite. I am worthy. That's I am meditations, right? I am worthy. So you start to look and see, I've been committed to being unworthy. I've been committed to playing small. I've been committing to holding myself back. I've been committed to keeping the slow-moving stream going. I've been committed to suffering. I've been committed to trying too hard. And you say, I'm going to withdraw those. I'm committed to ease now. I'm committed to my joy. I'm committed to letting the stream speed up and bring in more. Instead of being committed to I'm keeping my anxiety in check. doesn't sound fun, does it? I mean, what are you doing? Keeping my anxiety in check. Nobody says, great, let's have lunch. You know what I mean? It's not, but I'm keeping my anxiety at the minimum, right? Because even I was saying, probably the only thing really that I think about sometimes in going to Italy is I think, well, I don't speak the language. Now, of course, they'll tell you that a lot of people speak English and it's not a big deal anyhow. But if you have anxiety, you're irrational. So I was just thinking in terms of, I'm going to get separated from my friend and everybody's going to be speaking Italian and I'm going to be lost. Well, we're going to Venice. So as I'm reading these things, it says, Venice is an island, so you can't get lost. It's like, you'd have to get on a boat. Like, you'd have to be committed to being lost. In Venice, you'd have to get on a fucking boat in order to get lost. Because you're just on a little island, right? You can just wander around, but you're on a fucking island. You can only just go so far. But your mind, when you're afraid, it just plays all these horrible scenarios. So I was thinking about, well, what if this? What if my eye thing flares up again? Or what if my head explodes on the plane because of sinus pressure? What if this? What if that? But everything that I was thinking of, I was like, it all sounds better than dying in my king-size bed watching Designing Women. You know what I'm saying? Like all of it, I thought, even if I just fall into the canal and drown in front of a big crowd, that sounds like a better story. To put on the website, he drowned in the canals in Venice during Carnival, sounds better than it took us 10 days to realize he was dead in his West Hollywood apartment watching Designing Women. Doesn't it just sound better? Even your head explodes on the plane sounds better. Then he choked on chips in his bed, watching Designing Women under the air conditioner. So you learn ways to just start to move out of the box of trying to maintain. This is one of the things that we've been talking about in my groups a lot lately, is that at a certain point, because of the way energy is, if you think in terms of energy is either circulating or it's congestion, a lot of times people get to a place in life where they're just trying to maintain. Now, here's the story I tell, which I shouldn't be telling, because I'm just sort of projecting, but what the hell, it's my lecture. There's someone, because I live in this building that's really old, it's not ancient, it's not Italy old, but it's old for Southern California. So the way it works there, I don't know how it works here, but they have something called, it's not rent control, but it's rent something, where they just sort of, whatever, I don't know what it's called. So they can't raise it just $1,000 a month. There's a certain percentage that they can raise it when somebody moves out and all that kind of stuff. So a lot of these people in this, but not a lot, but some of these people in this building have been there 30 years or so. But what happens legally then is they don't have to do anything to that apartment except upkeep it. So if the plumbing goes bad, they have to do something. But they don't have to update the fixtures or the floors. Every so many years they have to put in new carpet. Every so many years they'll have to repaint. But they don't have to do anything to take it out of the 80s into the 90s or the 2000s or the 2010s. Now, it just so happens that I lived in that building in the 1980s. So I know what those apartments were like in the 1980s. I had a studio apartment there, and there was a fake fireplace with a plastic log with a red light bulb behind it that spun. This is very 1980s with avocado green countertops and stove and in the 1980s that was fine because we just got now the 70s and whatever. Now in this I have hardwood floors and recessed lighting and new cabinets, and it's like white granite countertops, and it's nice. But there's a woman who lives down the hall from me who's been there since the 80s, so she has my old apartment. So they haven't done anything to it since then because they don't have to, and because she's living there at a rent that's comparable to the 1980s, right? So they upkeep it. So if the plumbing goes bad, which is why I know, because something went bad and they had to pull all this stuff out into the hallway, and I saw what was there. some of what she had. She had 30 years of accumulated, and it looked like she lived on the inside of a purse, from what I could see. And she's a very nice lady. But she has physical, like she hurt her knee and it got operated on. She has, a wheelchair that she was in, but now she's pushing it and all these things. Now, to me, again, I'm projecting this story onto her. But the story that people in that situation often tell is this. Maybe she's my age or maybe a little younger, okay? So I want you also to get that. She's not like, I'm not talking about she's 92. I'm talking about she's around my age, maybe even a little younger than me. And I'm sure her story is, I only have this much of an income, and this is comfortable, and so I am maintaining. But what she's living in is decay. You understand? That a lot of times what we call maintaining is actually decay. Because what's happening is decline. Because if there's not upkeep, there's decline. That's all there is. There's upkeep or there's decline. If you're not keeping something up, it's declining and decaying. So her apartment is decaying, and she's made that okay. Because I'm sure her story is, this is all that's possible for me. And I don't know her well enough to just open the door and go, bullshit! So she just has to figure it out. Right? And she may even think, I'm so lucky, that because this is a very high rent neighborhood now and I couldn't afford da-da-da-da-da. But that's just a story. In an infinite universe of possibilities and expansion and congestion or flow, she's living in decline because she's telling herself some story that this is all I can have. Now, this is not about you need to move. It's any area of life where you're telling yourself a story of limitation instead of desire. You understand? Like the idea of, if she sat down and wrote out a list of her ideal home, would it be that apartment? And if the answer is no, then what the fuck are you doing there? Because if you're there because of a story. Change the story. You don't have to know how. Just start to change the story. What's my ideal home like? It's bright, and it's light, and it's easily affordable to me. And it has this kind of a kitchen, and this kind of a bath, and it has a view of this, and it has da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And you don't know how. But that starts to summon the stream. That starts to summon the stream, and it summons possibilities, and it opens doors. But the story of, this is all I can expect, this is all that's possible for me, this is what I have to make do with, I have to be satisfied with this because my son is sick, and I have to stay, and da-da-da-da. Fuck you. That didn't sound spiritual, did it? Fuck you. That's a story. If you change the story, there will be some caretaker who will be the perfect person who will come in and give you breaks with your son. And maybe there's a better place for your son or your daughter or your grandmother that you're taking care of or whatever than this limited story that you've told yourself. Right? And I know people who've done that. They keep opening their mind, and so the stream keeps moving and things keep changing. Because they've moved out of the story of, I'm stuck. I can't. It's not possible. There's no way to do it. Right? Now, I have to be very careful. I know I'm talking a whole day long here. I don't care. But don't make the mistake of cursing what you have. Because if this woman starts to resent the apartment that she's in, this is going in the opposite direction. You don't have to hate the present to move into a glorious future. You bless what you have now while expanding. So this woman can be, what a great apartment. I'm so glad I live here. It's easily affordable for me now. I don't have to move from here to be joyful. And I'm creating like my dream. Because dreams don't have deadlines. Dreams don't know about your fixed income. Dreams don't have deadlines. Dreams come from the summoning of the stream. And then doors start to open. Doors start to open. So it's not about getting real dissatisfied with what you have and going, I can't believe I settled for this. What's wrong with me? No, it's like, no, this is great for today. I bless this today. I'm looking for the positive aspects in this, and I'm opening up to more by saying, what else? Right? Light and bright and joyful and peaceful and whatever it is, whatever speaks to you, whatever is your thing. Like the apartment that I'm in now is not somewhere I want to live long term, but it's fabulous. It's wonderful. But I would like a view. I'd like some trees outside. I look out into a courtyard and into the apartment across the way. I'd like a tree outside. I'd like a little balcony. I'd like another room. Because I basically I've turned the living room into my bedroom, and then the bedroom is a little classroom. So I have like 5 or 6 chairs in there, and I teach classes in there on Monday nights. So I'd like to have a bedroom back and all of those things. But I'm in no hurry, but I know it's possible, and I'm expanding, and I know that it's just going to unfold in exactly the right timing, in exactly the right way. I have it all written down. I want to live in this neighborhood. I want it to have this and this and this and this and this. And when I read it, it inspires me. Don't make a list that upsets you. Sometimes people do this. They make a list that upsets them. Don't make a fucking list that upsets you. If you're looking at your list and going, oh, that's a lot, and how would I do it? That's not your list. Start smaller. You want to look at the list and go, that's going to be so fun. And I'm happy right here, and that's really going to be fun. It's going to be so nice. And it's like, and then you almost feel like you're there now. When you get into the feeling, it's almost like you're there now. It's like, I see the tree outside the window now. I see plantation shutters and a tree, and then I just close the blinds. But I want to know it's there. Are you weird like that? I want a beautiful view to block. And then I want to just see it when I want to see it. I want to open it, and there's the tree, and there's the sun, and now close it. Doesn't have to make sense to anybody but you. How wonderful life is when you just, you've got no fucks left to give. That's the first day of your life. Right there. I'm sorry, we're all out of fucks here. I gave my last fuck 2 weeks ago, and now I don't have any fucks left to give. That's the first day of your life. That's when everything starts. That's when, do you know what? This, to me, is the first time when I feel like I'm not wearing a costume, and this looks like a costume. When I'm wearing a jacket or jeans or stuff like that, I always feel like I'm trying to dress like them, the earth people. You gotta try and dress like the earth people so they think you fit in here on the planet. And then when I wear stuff like this, I feel like, this is what we wear on my planet. This is how we dress on my planet, right? It's like thinking about wigs next. Right? It's like some big, like some just long, white, like David Bowie and Dune or something like that. Just crazy, just the more, just absolute acceptance of your weirdness. Of what's the life I want to live? And stop telling myself a story about how it's not possible, how it's not feasible. So this is as we wind this thing down now, is just your DDHD. That's your thing. Hashtag DDHD, dreams don't have deadlines. So when you catch yourself in some story about something and you hear that voice of Jacob saying bullshit, then just remember, dreams don't have deadlines, right? Listen, my friend and his 97-year-old mother, it's not just that she walks to the store. It's not just that she's still making art and now she's the darling of the art world. It's that she's bugging him about when he's going to take her on the next gay cruise. At 97. I've never been on a gay cruise. She's like, when are you taking me on another gay cruise? He was telling a story about the gay cruise that he took her on a few years ago and how she's sitting there in all her beautiful elegance, and there's a man standing next to her in a thong, and his ass is right here. And it's during the day, so it's like the daytime. It's like outside during the day, and she's sitting in this chair, and his ass is right there, And people are like taking pictures of her sitting there with his ass right there. I'm trying to remember exactly how she said it, because he said that somebody, I don't know if he said something, he noticed then that his ass was in her face, and he said something to her about, I'm so sorry, I didn't know that I was standing right there. And she just smiled and said something to the effect of, something like, well, you've taken all the mystery out of it very early in the day, haven't you? Something like that. So I just want you to think in terms of, I have a woman in my building who's living in decline of how she's on a fixed income and this and that, she's probably just 51 or 52 years old. And here's this 97-year-old woman who wants to go on her next gay cruise, is seeing all these top art dealers, has this life, even with dementia, that's bigger than many of our lives, certainly bigger than my life. But I aspire to that. We look at those people then and we say, that's the model. Not that you want to do what she's doing, but you want to live with the kind of stream that she's got going, where the stream is just, what am I interested in now? What am I interested in now? What am I interested in now? To be interested right up till the last day, right? That's happy, healthy, happy, healthy, happy, healthy, dead. That's the journey. Happy, healthy, happy, healthy, happy, healthy, dead. Not happy, healthy, decline, sick, on a machine, unplug, gone. No, happy, healthy, died on a gay cruise, fell in the Venice Canal, whatever, something like that, right? You're just like, I don't know what's wrong with me. Let's pray. All right. Once again, we close our eyes. Take a deep breath. Relaxing into that stream. Letting go of resistance and enjoying the ride. Knowing that there is nothing stopping us but a story. And so there's no rush, but there's no need to fall behind. Everything lays before us, and no matter how old we are, our best years can still be ahead of us. So this week, as we go out and live what we've talked about this morning, we will notice more what we are committed to and what we want to be committed to because of the joy and aliveness it brings us. That we will notice when we are holding ourselves back so that we can make a different choice, so that we can encourage ourselves without pushing, without shoving, but by relaxing and giving ourselves permission to dream, to believe, to vision, and to follow and walk through the open doors. To know that healing is possible at any moment, and we are summoning now that presence within us that heals, that restores, that renews, that releases all resistance and pain, that soothes and uplifts and creates. So decide again how you want to feel the rest of this weekend. And remember again what you are aligning with in your life. Now we surrender it all to that divine presence within us to go about the how in the perfect timing and in the perfect ways. We are open to receive. We are relaxed and open to receive as we offer ourselves now to this presence. Our hands, our feet, our voices, asking, where would you have us go? What would you have us do and say, and to whom? We remember now, as always, the way that we will know love and the way that we will feel love is by this perfect love moving through us to the world around us. For this we are thankful, and together we all say, Amen. I'm going to stretch a little bit. Okay, so my new book is in the bookstore. They have a bunch of copies of it in the bookstore, and I actually pre-signed them so that you don't have to wait for me to sign them. But they're available in the bookstore. Next weekend on Sunday, I'm speaking at Irvine at the Miracle Distribution Center Conference. It's hard for me to say. But all that information is on my website. You go to jacobglass.com. At jacobglass.com, up in the header, you will see a link for the daily pages I talked about. So you can download a form for sort of the student version of the daily page that I do 365 days a year. You can download that for free. It's right on there. Also, because I've had a lot of people who really love this book, and because Spirit started bugging me when I sped up my stream, I'm telling you, when you marry Jesus and speed up your stream, then shit really starts happening. So I thought I was going to not write anything for a while, but I've started writing the next book, which is basically just like this book. So it's 365 days of same thing, but for teenagers. So this one will be called Power Thoughts for Teens and Young Adults. On jacobglass.com, at the top of that page, right above my picture, is a blog that I'm putting the entries in, some of them as I'm writing them. So every day I have a new entry, so that there's a blog while I'm in the process of writing this, so people don't have to wait for the book to be out. So if you have teenagers or young people in your life, I'm really gearing it from ages 12 to 22. So in that age range, I have no idea if I'm speaking right for them, because I still, at 57, kind of think a lot like a teenager. So I'm just sort of writing it like as if I'm still at that age. So I don't know if it'll, who it will really speak to. But if you know anybody in those ages that you think would like a little help in this same thing because it's the same thing. It's them speaking to themselves. So this is the thing to me, is that teenagers don't want you preaching at them, telling them philosophy and blah, 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 blah. This is just, what do they say to themselves in the morning? What's the little thing to say to myself in the morning to get myself in the frame of mind that I want to be in? So it is spiritual, so it has some stuff about source and God and stuff like that, but it's not extremely religious or anything like that. I think most young people are innately spiritual anyhow, but it's not religious sounding. But anyhow, you can direct people to that, and if that's something that interests you and you're looking at that, and you have teenagers or no teenagers or something like that, if you want to, you can email me and just say, this is what my teenager is dealing with, and then I'll try to write treatments that are geared towards that. Do you know what I'm saying? Because I don't know. I don't really know any teenagers. So, do you know what I mean? I don't really know any teenagers. But if you do, then you can tell me this is what they're dealing with, and I will start to write treatments towards that so that it's reaching them. Please, go.